Hello again. I forgot that I wanted to talk about another piece of news, which actually this is German news again, but it's just to use it as an example for a broader narrative, very common also in the West. You see, do you remember back in the day when the Battle of Mariupol was going on? And all the spotlights of the world was pointing at Mariupol, and a lot of narratives and counter narratives appeared that the Russians were bombing maternity hospitals. Actually, it seemed, if you listened at the time to the mainstream Western media, it would seem that those would be their primary targets, right? Of course, the counter arguments always show up, and when acclamations, especially when this kind of claims are very exaggerated, and then we've seen some very enlightening images of Ukrainian and Azov people sleeping inside of this, using these schools as shelter for sleep, as bedroom, bragging it was very comfortable, and so on and so on. So it's a big mess over there. A lot of exchange of accusations. In the end, the NAZIs of Azov got surrounded and had to surrender. And I remember for weeks the news were like focusing on the destruction of Mariupol, how beautiful it was, and how it ended up everything destructed, and it's true. It was huge destruction in Mariupol. It was an onslaught happening there, but with collateral casualties. But I'm not going into who was the ones using human shields or who was the ones actually shooting at civilians. You have a lot of testimonies from people from there, so you go back and do that research yourself. The reason I'm mentioning Mariupol now is that I wanna go there. By the way, I wanna visit it, but I've seen very stunning images of it. Brand new apartment building blocks, brand new schools, brand new infrastructure, roads, you name it, being built at a very fast pace. So in this particular piece of news, which I'm very sorry that I forgot the name of the German outlet, but I will try to put it in a comment below or in the description below and post editing as soon as I get to a computer. Okay. So this news outlet was showing images of the past destruction, and now it was talking about the Putin's aids, the help, the Western help to Putin. What I mean to say is that they were like denouncing. It's like the witch hunting, like pointing their finger to a German company operating in Russia, which was having a role in the reconstruction of Mariupol, right? And they were viewing this as a negative thing. So you have destruction, but then, okay, which is very bad. I can understand all the arguments against this. It's war, it's bad, but you have in record time reconstruction, and people being given apartments, and kids being able to go to brand new schools, and everything working again for the people living there, and working better than before. And these guys focus on a company that it's there making their business. and implying that without these companies or this kind of Western aids, these people helping Putin, Russia wouldn't make it. And they forget that Russia doesn't need actually this kind of. If these companies leave, like others left, there will be others to fill the void, and Russians will be profit even more from the same business because the market is there. So this company is actually German, but their production is made with Russian materials. I think they are specialized in like this plywood, drywall stuff, construction materials. But the raw materials, the resources come from Russia. And why is that? Because it's cheaper. So it's better for this company to have this business set there. But anyway, so you see, how can we ever hope to have peace if all the narratives that come towards Russia or towards anyone the Americans tell us not to like are always twisted in this way? I remember a completely different scenario, but the same technique. For example, an episode when Cuba took his doctors away from Brazil because of Bolsonaro's accusations. And Bolsonaro was pretending to be worried with the working conditions and the pay of these doctors. So he started to make a bunch of accusations to the Cuban government, and the Cuban government, which was providing a very helpful and valuable service to the poor communities in Brazil, I said, if you don't want them, we take them back. And that's what they did. So, and but it's using the same logic, right? Instead of seeing the good that the doctors were doing and helping his own citizens that he pledged to serve, he dives into this little, what's the name for, this mentality, this little things mentality, picky, and I know the name is in my mind in Portuguese, which is called mesquinho, but I don't remember the name in English. So every narrative about Russia cannot be positive. You have a very positive story there of reconstruction, rebuilding people's lives. And the conclusion of the article is that this only works in favor of Russian propaganda. No kidding. No kidding. No shit. Very bright of you to point this out. How did you reach such brilliant conclusion? Of course it does, right? Of course it does. But it's actually a very good piece and material piece of propaganda. It's that this propaganda is actually backed up with things, physical things on the ground. I wish all the propaganda would be like that. Look at this beautiful school that we have. And indeed, the school is there. I wish everyone... Look at this corps of doctors we have to serve the needs of all our people. And the doctors are there. Instead of saying that we are making our best to protect and to serve and paint everything pink, and then it's all fake, right? So this is the difference between the two propagandas. If you actually back it up, it's not that bad, right? If you actually are doing good for the people, you have the right to do propaganda, right? Of course, the name propaganda, it implies painting always, if not different, at least a brighter picture than it is normally. Okay, even if that happens anyway, but these claims are being backed up, right? I don't know, let me know what you think of this, because I see this in every story. I mean, just by saying Putin's aides or Putin's army, Putin's this, Putin's that. It's utter, it's infantile discussion, right? I thought we, the Westerners, were superior, and so we wouldn't engage in these little things of argument. It worries me. It worries me that news like this sell. That's what worries me, because you're always gonna have assholes and liars and crooks. The problem is when they gain traction. That's when the problems begin. When you are able to mobilize the population behind your lies and have them doing the wrong choices. This is actually the one and true menace, threat to a real healthy democracy. It's the twisting of information, which is bigger now than ever. So Mariupol is being reconstructed. Just keep that positive news. Forget about the rest. In the meantime, Blinken, I think he's still in Europe. At least a few hours ago he was in Belgium, Brussels, giving his NATO speeches. And if you go and listen to that speech, it's beautiful. It's beautiful in the way that it has no corresponding to reality whatsoever. So it's like a painting, a surrealistic painting that you imagine, and you create this alternate reality in your canvas. This is how I describe Blinken's speech there. He's talking about Palestine, he's talking about Russia, and the way he talks about Israel and Palestine is really astonishing. The way that they are careful in the words, and even when he's asked, weren't you outraged by the killing of these human aid workers, Western human aid workers that were there distributing this so precious aid to starving people, and they were killed by Israelis? Weren't you outraged by this? And it's like, of course we are outraged, of course, and we recommend, and we are working, and we are trying to convince Israel, but on the other hand we have to understand that Israel must defend itself, and blah 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 blah. And these are the words. In practice, United States is supplying the weapons that Israel is making the killings with, and also financial aid, and then it's sending meager packages of humanitarian aid to which the population flock to because they are desperate and starving and have babies to feed and all this, and then the Israelis bomb them. Just imagine if it was the Syrians doing this, if it was the Russians doing this, if it was the Chinese doing this, if it was any of those who are demonized but actually mind their own business in their own territories and don't have bases all abroad in the entire globe. Yeah. Okay, now I feel that I'm rambling. But go and watch that speech. How beautiful. That's real propaganda, by the way. That is the propaganda. The Americans are the propaganda meisters. They've always been. Even when I was a kid, I've grown up with all their movies and shit, and Rambo and Rocky and all this. But somehow, something always smelled fishy. I have to admit, I felt much more for the Soviet propaganda when I was a kid. Although we had like 1% of it versus all the shit coming from the US. But the tiny bit that we had was actually good quality. We knew about the deeds of the Soviets, science-wise, and achievements in the space race, and other traits of Soviet society, like the system of healthcare and education. Yeah, I think that attracted me more. I don't know why. Bye bye.